What's going on, everybody? This is Scott, also known as ChaChingKing, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 most common questions that I've had about shipping on eBay. What I've done is I went back through the videos that I've made that were specific to shipping, which have had over 650,000 views and literally thousands of questions. I've taken those thousands of questions and I've kind of narrowed them down into 5 main categories. The first group of questions that we want to make much easier are weights and measurements when we're getting ready to ship. The first thing you need to know is it's the post office that we need to have this information accurate for. So we need the weight and the measurement of the item as it's packaged. Well, like, what's it going to look like when the post office gets it? That's the weight and measurement you need. For example, if I'm going to ship this shirt, I'm going to want to know what this weighs and how big it is once I've got it into a package. You aren't going to need a ton of supplies for this, but you are going to need an accurate scale. You need to know what this stuff weighs. The good news is an accurate scale doesn't cost much at all. We used an ACCUTECK, and I'll pop a picture of it up. We used an ACCUTECK for like 6 or 7 years, and it was like $20. A good scale is a must. We have a Rollo now because if you ship any larger items, it has the display out to the side, and I really like that, but I still have the ACCUTECK, and we still use it downstairs. The other thing you're going to need is a tape measure, and just really any tape measure. I'm sure you have a tape measure there somewhere. If you're using recycled materials, make sure you get the height, the width, and the length of the box that you're going to ship your item in. The last part of that question comes from poly mailers. What size do you put in? If I have a 10 by 13 poly mailer that has no thickness, I want to know how thick is that going to be once I put the shirt in it. So I fold my shirt up, I put it in there, and I can tell it's, this thick or so. I'm going to put about 4 inches on that. That will give 10 by 13 by 4, and I have never got a package back doing it that way. Let's move on to the second group of questions, and that's what shipping method should I use? You can use ground advantage for almost everything you sell. It may not always be the cheapest, and it may not always be the fastest, but you can use ground advantage. So if you're really afraid of getting it wrong, use ground advantage. It covers a lot of ground. Can I say that? It really does cover a lot of ground because the post office accepts everything up to like 70 pounds you can ship ground advantage. So regardless of what you're selling, use ground advantage as your fallback method. You can also use priority mail. That's the United States Post Office priority mail. What's nice about priority mail is that you can use the post office's free supplies for priority mail. I do see questions and incorrect answers to this all the time. You can only use the priority supplies to ship via United States Post Office priority mail. You can't cover those supplies up and use them for anything else. It's against the law. So don't do that. Let's move on to the third group of questions, and let's talk about shipping supplies. One of your first responsibilities as a seller is to get the item to your buyer safely. And I'm of the opinion that I don't scrimp and save on packing and shipping materials. I have what I need right here. First, I do have a small stock of the United States Postal Supplies priority shipping supplies. They're free. There's no reason for me not to have those things here when I'm shipping. And then 2, I keep some standard size boxes like the 8x8x4 I use all the time. And I have had great luck with GeroPack. I keep a lot of their bubble mailers here. Since it's not eBay branded, if I sell something on Poshmark or another place, I have envelopes that will work for anything. So I do like GeroPack. There's a lot of my viewers that have access to some free materials. Take advantage of those kind of things before you spend any money. Let me give you an example of why it's important to have the right supplies here. I've sold a ton of vintage keyboards. I bought about 100 IBM Model M keyboards. They're big, they're bulky, and they can take a long time to wrap up and get out of here if you don't have the right stuff. But I bought the 24-inch bubble wrap from American Bubble Boy. I bought boxes that are 24 by 12 by 6. I know the size. And I can wrap those things up and ship them out of here. And they weigh just under 8 pounds. And I know all of it because I've already had my materials here. So I think that's a really key way to remove a lot of this fear, to make sure you have your supplies. And if you do, it sure makes getting the weights and measurements correct on the first step when you already have those things ready to go. Let's move on to the fourth group of questions. The fourth group of questions covers cost. Getting your shipping cost wrong can absolutely obliterate any profit that you might make. I've shared the story before, but the first time that my son thought he was shipping something to Arkansas, it was actually going to Alaska. And the shipping cost that he had on there, he just got pummeled. We still shipped it. We're going to eat that. We're not going to have the buyer come back and try to make that up. But a shipping mistake on the cost, how much you charged, can be a real problem. There's a lot of categories and a lot of people that have free shipping. Here's the deal. Free shipping isn't free to you. As the seller, you are going to have to pay to get that item to the buyer. Whether you charged your shipping all included in the cost of the item, or you have it separate in the cost of the shipping itself, you're going to have to pay it either way. What I do, and I'm going to tell you why I do it that way, I charge shipping. All of the talk about getting more sales with free shipping, it didn't happen with me. When I've run my own experiments, I didn't see a great big improvement. When I charge for shipping, now if I get an offer on something, I can consider just the offer for that price because I should have my shipping covered or just about completely covered. Here's how you can arrive at a proper charge for shipping. Like, how much is it actually going to cost you? First, I have a whole video for this that I will link at the end of this video about how much to charge for shipping. But there's a couple of options. One is experience is going to solve a lot of that. If you're afraid of getting it wrong, use calculated shipping. If you have accurate weight and accurate dimensions, when you put in calculated shipping, when the buyer is looking at your item, it's going to tell them how much it's going to charge for them to get that item. And that removes a lot of the risk from you, the seller. So first, make sure your things are accurate. Make sure you have the right supplies here. And for me, I charge shipping because then I don't have to consider it when I run a sale. I don't have to consider it if I'm getting offers. I can just consider the price of the item without accidentally eating up all my profit with shipping. And then two, if it's really scary or if you're brand new, use the calculated shipping and just make sure you have accurate weight measurement and you should be okay. And the last one is probably the one I feel the strongest about because it's the one I did without the very longest. And that is, if you buy your label at home, at some point you need to put a label on the package. There are several different ways you can do that. You can print a QR code, send that to your phone, and the post office can put it on there. You can print on a regular printer and cut that out and tape it down. Both of those work. If you're going to approach this like a business, those don't work for long. First of all, I do not want to wait at the post office in order to get my labels printed. I just don't want to do it. Once I leave the house with my packages, whether I'm taking them to a mailbox or dropping them off or going into a post office, I want them ready to go, period. So taping it down becomes an option, but you're going to find out that tape isn't free. If you're going to be a reseller, you're going to find out real quick, tape isn't free. In fact, it's not even cheap. Tape can cost a lot, and I'm already having to tape up the boxes, and it's time consuming. Not a big deal if I have one package, but what if I have 10 packages? What if I had a great day of sales, and then I look at shipping the next day, and I'm going to have to cut and tape down 10 labels? That becomes a chore. I feel so strongly about this, and it comes up all the time, is that you need to, as your very first big business expense, you need to get yourself a label printer. I have a Rollo I use constantly. I also have tested the Jadens printer and had amazing luck with it. And I have tested the Munbin printer. Munbin sent me one, and Jadens sent me one too. Both of them sent me one to try out. I've had other printers that have been sent to me to try out that I'm not mentioning because I could never get them to connect properly. Both of those, well, all three of them, the Rollo, the Jadens, and the Munbin, they all connected to eBay for me flawlessly. And that's super important to me because I don't want to work on a printer. I just want to use a printer. But a label printer is critical. It's going to speed up your process immensely. It looks way more professional than cutting and taping it down. Oh, and the labels with thermal label printer are way cheaper than an inkjet printing on regular paper. So it's just all around better, and it's going to solve a lot of problems for you. Those 5 questions cover the vast majority of shipping questions that I've had. And I get it. Shipping is the scariest thing that you're going to do when you're just diving into selling. But I've said this many, many times. You don't talk to experienced sellers who are afraid to ship. So experience fixes all the fear. Knowing the answers to those 5 questions, getting yourself ready, you can do this. You've got this. So that's it for this one. I appreciate you watching. I'm going to see you real soon on the next one. Bye.